Devastating defeat for West Ham. 3-1. Newcastle never, ever in the game, in truth.
No.
Roy Keane pulled no punches afterwards. He said they suffered from an utter lack of intensity and desire. Said the players stood around feeling sorry for themselves. After the match, Nuno said his team have got to regroup quickly ahead of what he hopes will be a huge final game of the season.
Yeah, we are upset with the result, upset with the performance and the need that we had, that we didn't achieve a chance that we missed. The frustration is there. What we have to try is, we have a tough week ahead of us. Work, respect, and try to finish the season with dignity. Let's see what happens on Tuesday. Still possible, but realize that it's very difficult.
You know, look, Spurs need 1 point from 2 games. That's what the gist of it is, Ray. It's hard to see them not getting a point.
No, I think that was... You go back to when Spurs beat Villa. Spurs beat Villa, and I think West Ham lost to Brentford, didn't they? Yeah. And that for me, that was the turning point there a little bit. But yesterday, West Ham were poor, really was. I was watching it and I was thinking, come on, you know, this is for your future, to stay in the Premier League, and you needed a bit more energy. I mean, it was a bad mistake, the first goal, wasn't it? I mean, the goalkeeper left it short. Yeah. He nipped in. Good finish in the end from Volta. But it was a game where, come on, this is our lives are going to depend on this going forward. We want to stay in this Premier League, and I just didn't see that desire. I really didn't. I had them down in my predictions, West Ham to win, because I thought Newcastle, really, what they're playing for, nothing. And West Ham are playing for their lives, so I thought they just might have that little bit more edge. But in the end, Newcastle were very comfortable winners, weren't they?
And I had West Ham down to win there as well. You know, I thought first team squad, reportedly they all have 50% salary cut clauses in their contracts. Talk about needing an incentive, but they didn't look like it.
Well, I think a lot of the big boys probably believe in anyway.
Oh, they will.
I'm sure there's clauses in it where they can leave as well.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there'll be a little bit of a queue for Bowen and people like that if he is going to leave West Ham. But who knows? It's a shame. Look, it ain't over yet, but I'd be amazed if Tottenham blow it now. I mean, look, Chelsea, you never know what Chelsea are going to turn up, but you expect them to get at least a point now.
You do. The only thing is whether they have an FA Cup final hangover or not. Look, speaking on last night's final word, Alan Pardew warned they'll have no choices as the Hammers but to offload their high earners to balance the books.
I remember West Ham bought big in the last window to try and correct the situation. And, you know, change managers. It's a very expensive business to try and stay in the Premier League. And when you don't, then that is just amplified the issue.
And where does this leave the players like Jared Bowen, Somerville, and some of the class players they have at West Ham?
Well, very similar to when I took over, I'm guessing. Because when I took over West Ham, they'd just got relegated. And Defoe, David James, you know, all those players, Michael Carrick, they all moved on because, you know, they got suitors in the Premier League and you're under financial pressure to bring some cash in.
Yeah. So Bowen, Somerville, Mateus Fernandes, Diouf, Disasi form an orderly queue at the exit door. I think that's the message there, because West Ham, without the sort of TV money they get now, I mean, goodness knows what the crowds are going to be like. They get 62,000 on a regular basis.
Well, that's one thing about West Ham. They've got a great fan base. They will still turn up.
They're not going to fill the place in the Championship.
It's going to be difficult. It's going to be difficult, but they will get behind them. And if they start well in the Championship next year, if they do go down, you know, that crowd will get behind them to try and bounce straight back up. And, you know, there's lots of things need to change at West Ham.
Yeah.
But the board and all that sort of stuff, how they're going to run the club. And people always argue that, since we left Upton Park. But I wouldn't put that down as a blame. Yeah. I think certain areas it's been run pretty poorly, West Ham.
The other question, of course, is what happens to Nuno? But after that performance at St James's Park yesterday, West Ham fans love to hear from you. Now, I'm delighted to say we're joined by actor, presenter, big West Ham fan, Charlie Quirke. Morning, Charlie.
How are you doing, Charlie?
Morning, gents. How are you both? You okay?
Yeah, good, thanks, mate. Have you sort of accepted your fate, or do you think there's still a glimmer of a chance?
I mean, you know, we've been staring down the barrel since January, since the loss to Wolves and Forest, and we had a couple months of good times of hope, but you know, to have to rely on Chelsea is something that we don't like doing as West Ham fans. So I think we're edging closer. I think it might be our time, without saying exact words. Yeah.
Charlie, I just that performance yesterday, I had them down as a West Ham win because I'm thinking Newcastle, a little bit hit and miss. They're not really going for anything at the moment. I know Trippier's last game, they want to go see him, a good send off for him, but I just think the atmosphere and everything about it, it was a really poor game, was it, to watch for West Ham's point of view, because I didn't see that hunger to say we want to stay in the Premier League. I want to see that desire to say we want to stay in the Premier League. It's a little bit like the Wolves game, like you mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like panic football from what I saw. Was they looked nervous from the first minute. I mean, the defence was all over the place. He's chopped and changed formation and stayed with 5 at the back, the same as against Arsenal when you know we've got to win it. We looked different when Tati came on.
Yeah, it did, yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a little too late. I think the boys just got a bit too much and looked really nervous, to be honest. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you're absolutely right. They did look different when Tati Castellanos came out. I was surprised he didn't start. Were you?
I was. I think. I mean, I understand why he brought Tadibo back in I mean, Tadibo didn't look too happy laughing when he ran off the pitch being subbed, but that's another conversation. I love Tati Castellanos. I mean, I think he's quite un-Arnautovic-like in his work rate and his battle. And we need players that need to battle and show fight for the shirt. And I think that's what's been missing since the start of the year, really, is more players with that grit and determination.
Are you worried that next year, look, if you do go down, look, it's still, if Chelsea do get a result, it can go down to the last game. You never know. I think you've got Leeds and they've got Everton, haven't they, Tottenham? Yeah. But if you do go down, you're worried a lot of big players will be leaving, like Bowen and players like that?
I mean, I think a lot of them would leave if we scrape the staying up. Sorry, I still think Bowen has to leave for a career element. We'll lose Somerville, we'll lose Tadibo as he's having a giggle running off the pitch, and I think we'll lose most of our squad. So if we stay up or go down, I think there'll be a massive overhaul, and that'll be from the top down. I think there's a lot of things to change, but bigger worries if we do go down. Obviously, the uncertainty of what then happens to your club.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be a massive shift either way.
Yeah, I think you're right about Jared. I mean, he's 29 now. He's got to make a decision one way or the other. You know, he's either going to move on or he's going to spend the rest of his career at West Ham. In truth, what about Nuno? Will he stay? Would you want him to stay if you go down?
I mean, I'm honestly not sure. I think he's made too many formational and tactical errors that have really lost us points. I mean, I remember we were winning against Bournemouth. Callum Wilson was on track for a hat-trick and he took him off and we lost 5-2. We just capitulated and, you know, start of the year was playing Irving and other players in midfield and it just wasn't working. I mean, all the credit went to that Paco Jimenez when he came in January for our change in an upturn in fortune. So I don't know. You know, I don't know if we need a reset and someone like Bilic to come back in or an ex-player as well that might lift the club up. I really don't know where it leaves West Ham United, I'll be honest.
I'm sure you'll have your Chelsea shirt on Tuesday night anyway.
I won't have a Chelsea shirt on, Ray, but I'll be...
A blue shirt then, a blue shirt.
Yeah, I'll wear a nice little hue of blue. I've got a blue wall anyway, so I'll sit in front of this and watch it.
Perfect.
Brilliant. Thanks very much indeed, Charlie.
Cheers, Charlie.
Thank you, lads. Thanks very much.
West Ham.
Tell you what, there'll be a lot of Arsenal fans watching Tuesday night, hoping that Bournemouth can get a result, Jeff. Yeah. If Arsenal can win tonight. And then obviously West Ham will be the same. West Ham will be, come on, Chelsea, can you get a result? Beat Spurs for us, and then it could go down to the last game. And
you know what, with Leeds, and they did brilliantly to hang on in there against Brighton. They scored with their only shot on target in the game.
Amazing.
In the
bad mistake, wasn't it?
It was a bad mistake. But they have got so many injury problems at the moment that West Ham, if they're still in the fight. At that stage, they could be.
And I'm sure David Moyes wants to, West Ham to stay up. I'm sure.
Yeah.